The third step of the CODO process is to establish and maintain a sense of urgency. Yes, of course you want to take your time with each and every one of your amazing clients, but at the end of the day, you need to make as many sales as possible. It's how you're gonna make the most money at the end of the year. And you're not gonna do that by leaving the timeline in the other party's court, right? We're comparing negotiating and closing to sports a lot here. Imagine if there was no timeline on any of these games. Turn on the football game. It's not an hour on the clock, it's what the players want it to be. How are they feeling today? That's how long they're gonna play for, because we just care about their feelings. No! Every quarter is 15 minutes whether you like it or not, okay? Same thing when you are setting up how to close and negotiate with your clients. There's a timeline. If they're working with you, it's because you're the best. You are creating the appropriate type of CODO urgency. Now, if you've read my first book, the greatest book in the history of the world, Sell It Like Sirhan, you'll remember my push, pull, and persist mentality. This process is a big, big part of how I frame so much of my work, and closing and negotiation is no exception to that. I use push, pull, and persist as a method of creating the urgency needed to keep my transactions moving at a pace that is appropriate for the client's timeline and the current market. So let's start with push. To push in this part of a transaction is to make sure that you are preparing your clients for the process, especially if there are any steps that might be different in your area. Now in New York, this is often what I have to do when someone is looking at a condo or a co-op, because they need to fill out a separate application for the building and so many other things. And unless you've done that before, you have no idea that you actually have to. And you have no idea what goes into it, so you need to be prepared. Pushing is making sure your clients have a timeline and have an attorney in place, and a bank and an inspector and any other service providers that they might need that you're going to provide. Now, if you rely solely on them to find and contact these people, well, I mean, it's never gonna happen, right? Now, pushing is also using the state of the market to get your client down the road to the close, to get into that end zone. And things like comps, availability of homes on the market, and keeping tabs on how many showings or interested parties there are in a home can all motivate your client to keep the process on track. Now, later in a transaction, you might need to push to remind the client why they wanted to do this in the first place. Go back to the CODO playbook, step 2, to remind yourself of their motivation. And sometimes you need to tell them, you need to do this deal. This is the best option for you and your family. Be their doctor, okay? Tell them, you need this medicine. You need to take this. That urgency is real. You can also use pull to create urgency. Pull is taking the deal away. Well, maybe now isn't a good time to do it. You're right, Bob. Perhaps Phyllis should continue living 45 minutes away, so you have to go see her every single Sunday in traffic, miss the football games, with your family in the back seat, crying. No problem. Maybe you shouldn't move. That home with an in-law suite with a separate entrance, that's the only one like it in the town. You know what? It's just not that special anyway. Let's keep moving. You remind Bob of this. You pull the deal away from him. You remind him of the reason you're in this home search in the first place, because people forget all the time. They forget why they're even here. They forget why they're looking. They get so focused on the minutia. Remind him, and you'll see him want to get that in-law suite real fast. If it means Phyllis won't be living in the bedroom next to the primary suite, knocking on the wall, right? Bobby, no, you don't want that, does he? Again, study the players. You'll know how to and when to push or pull depending on the people involved and their motivations. You may have to use push for one person and pull for another person, even in the same deal, to solve the same objection depending on the personalities. And that's the power of you understanding improv and being able to read people. and understanding who's going to react to what type of P in these 3 P's of CODO urgency. Then, of course, we have persist. Keep repeating the same story over and over again. Facts tell, stories sell. If you've ever seen a politician speak, right? They use the same words in the same order, always, over and over and over and over again, even if they've said the same thing in every media interview for the last 4 years, because there is power in repetition. There is power in persistence. When you put positive or negative pressure into the players in the deal, you make the vision of their future that much clearer. All of a sudden, they're not thinking about that pesky $5,000 that they have to pay. Nope. They're thinking about what wine they want to serve at the amazing dinner party that they're going to have outside on their beautiful new deck. That's what they wanted in the first place. Pulling information out of the players in step 2 gives you the ability to keep them moving with urgency here in step 3. Push, pull, and persist for CODO urgency. The point of creating this type of urgency is not to make you or your client anxious, okay? I want to make sure that we are on the same page about that. I can just imagine right now everyone watching this and then going out and calling up all your clients and saying, buy, you have to buy, you have to buy, you have to buy, or you have to sell, you have to sell, you have to sell. You're going to lose it, you're going to lose it, you're going to lose it. No. That's not what we're talking about. We're not creating anxiety. We're doing the exact opposite. And certainly, we're not trying to put undue pressure on anyone. Rather, like a baby, everyone wants plans. They want timelines. Whether they say they do or they don't, they do. They need it. Timelines and urgency under a timeline is what we yearn for. We need structure, especially when we're spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars or selling something for hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. Why do you think listing agreements have timelines? Why do you think closings have timelines? Why doesn't you think everything serious has timelines? The process should have a timeline too. It needs structure, right? And when you have that structure on that timeline and create that CODO urgency, you're doing it to ensure that you are always taking steps forward towards the closing date.